Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to Stormworks, and in this one we are back working on our oil rig. Now we've got a couple changes to do over here in towards the lifeboat area, and this is something that I thought would just kind of look better if we made these two buildings a little bit more symmetrical. So it's going to look a little goofy now, but I assure you we'll make it look a lot better later on. There's going to be a catwalk that kind of runs from the one back there and the bridge running to the ops room over to the lifeboat area. So it gives easy access from the bridge over to the lifeboats. And I thought that that was probably a pretty, not necessary, but pretty important feature for a lot of people in the bridge to be able to get over to the lifeboat area pretty easily. So over here, we're just going to have a bunch of safety equipment and whatnot. But in today's episode, really, we're just going to work on filling out the deck more. The deck is already, it's starting to look a lot better and it's starting to get a lot more crowded. But what I want to do is I want this thing to feel really, really compact. So we got to get more stuff on the deck, and we're going to add a little shipping container towards the back of the deck over towards kind of our slurry filters later on. And that will eventually turn into a diving bell. But you guys will kind of see all that later on. I do apologize if I sound a little funny right now. I have been very, very ill for the last couple of days. So still kind of recovering, but I'm finally starting to feel better. So I will be honest, probably going to see a little bit more, speed ups and time lapses with the music and that kind of thing in this episode. But that's just because I'm trying to give myself a little bit of a break. But I also wanted to make sure that I could get this video out to you guys. So here we are. We're getting it done, and I'm going to do my best. And I hope you guys like it. I think that this building right here makes the oil rig look a lot better overall. And one other thing before we kind of get into the building, the build challenge has ended. If you guys didn't see, we did a little helicopter build challenge for that. It was done through my Discord. There's a link down in the description below to that. But that is all complete. Thank you all for submitting your helicopters. I've tried to check out most of them. Some of them are, they've been submitted in the last couple of days, so I might not have seen every single one of them, but a lot of the helicopters so far I have checked on. A lot of really cool stuff, and I'll try to have that video out soon-ish to you guys. Those videos do generally take quite a long time to kind of edit and put together and whatnot, so don't be surprised if it's another week or two, but that's just because, I gotta edit all of these different clips. I think we had 17 different helicopters, so I've got to film 17 different clips, and I've got to read through you guys' descriptions and kind of explore your helicopters, get myself familiar with them before I go ahead and film it. But that's enough of that, enough of the yapping. We're going to get into the time lapse with this one. If you guys like this oil rig series, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. I know it's been a rather long series, but we're getting there. I promise you we'll get it done. This is a very long series. There's a lot of stuff to do, and I want to do a really good job with it. So we're kind of just taking our time and making sure that we fill a lot of it out. But yeah, guys, I'm going to let the time lapse roll a little bit, and I will talk to you in a few minutes. All right, so we moved a little bit further back in the oil rig, and back here I've just placed one of the default containers because I kind of like the aesthetic of it, and I wanted to make it look like they brought a container on board and kind of repurposed it to be more of a building. So what we're doing here is this is going to be a diving area. And so in here, there's going to be a lot of diving equipment. There's going to be a tank refill so you can refill your oxygen tanks. And then there's going to be a diving bell. So we're going to add a little platform up above. That's where the winch for the diving bell and all that kind of good stuff is going to go. But I think that this kind of fills this backside of the oil rig up quite nicely. And I think that this is probably going to be one of the last buildings we add to the oil rig. Now, I will say we do add one more, and that's going to be kind of like a communication center. And that's going to go right behind the diesel generator. Kind of a goofy place for it, I know, but it's, you know, one of the only places I could squeeze another building. And like I said, I'm really trying to fill this thing out as much as possible. So what I'm doing here is I'm just kind of cleaning this this container up, and we're gonna obviously repaint it. I'm thinking this nice tan is what we're gonna go with. And, you know, we're just gonna kind of make it look like it's more of a permanent structure that was added and made. And that way, you know, it kind of just breaks up this big open area in the back here. And over to the back side of this staircase right behind us, there's going to be just kind of blank space for, you know, cargo, that kind of thing. It is right next to the crane, so it does kind of make sense. But for the meantime, I'm just kind of changing all these blocks real quick so they can all match color. And then we will kind of go about detailing the rest of it, making it look a lot better. But I do like where this structure is. I think it's a nice little feature. And, you know, I think that the diving bell, it's not completely necessary, but it is sort of useful. And I'm going to use the term diving bell quite loosely because really it's just going to be a way to bring yourself down to the wellhead instead of, you know, actually giving yourself a place to breathe and reacclimate and that kind of thing. So it's not going to be sealed up or anything like that. So don't expect that. It's going to be unsealed. You're going to have to use your scuba equipment while you're inside of the diving bell, but it's an easy way to, you know, go down a couple 100 meters to check on the wellhead, do some repairs if you need to, and that way you don't have to swim all the way down and then swim all the way back up. And, you know, this is something that probably, again, is not very necessary, but I think it's a fun little feature, especially if you want to just go on and check on things. You can kind of go down there and read out some of the information off the wellhead too, if you have your tooltips on. But enough of that. We are going to move on to the aft section of the oil rig now. And so this is kind of a weird building. This is something you probably wouldn't really think of because it's absolutely unnecessary, like everything I do in Stormworks. And what we're building here is a communication center. So it's going to kind of be like the data center for the oil rig. And the reason I'm building it is because if you really think about it, if you're out in the ocean, there's no way for you to get any sort of internet. And so I wanted to create a little tower out here with a nice little radio antenna. And that way we can kind of pretend that it's, you know, picking up internet via satellite, which some of the oil rigs do that. Some of them do it via hardline that is laid if they're close enough to shore. But a lot of times it is satellite internet, and you do need some sort of internet out on the oil rig. These guys are, you know, we're not living in the dark ages anymore. So there's a lot of data processing that goes on. There's a lot of paperwork that goes on. They kind of need to be able to, you know, manage all of that remotely out in the ocean as well. So that's kind of what we're working on here. And the lower floor is going to be kind of more like a microcontroller center. So it's going to be where I put a lot of the microcontrollers. And then the upper floor is going to be more of like a communications tower. So you guys will see we're going to add a giant radio mast on top of it. And I think it looks pretty cool. And I can also confidently say, that this is the last building that we get in or add to the oil rig. So after this, it's pretty much on to just detailing things up. And then once we get everything detailed up and running smoothly, we should be able to get this thing on the workshop. So that's not me promising that it'll be soon. I know this has taken a while, but this build is very complex, so it is going to take a while. And, you know, it's just one step at a time. So luckily, you know, we can confidently say we've checked all of the boxes for the buildings we're going to add. Like the rest of the structures, this building is also going to get air conditioning and all of that other good stuff. But yeah, this one's not going to be too complicated, just kind of something to fill this back section of the deck up a little bit more. And I know that's kind of been the ongoing battle for a lot of this stuff. But yeah, I think, you know, after this, episode, you guys will kind of get a really good gist for what the oil rig is going to kind of look like when it's more completed. So that's kind of nice. We will be a little bit less focused on, filling out the oil rig and a little bit more focused on kind of detailing it up. All right, well, we got the bones of this building in, so we're just going to go ahead and throw some windows in here. Now, I will say this is probably going to be a little bit longer of an episode just because I'm trying to kind of add all of this building into one episode. So I'm also probably going to we're going to add air conditioning to this, like I mentioned earlier. So I'll probably leave that in this episode too, and I'll try to talk you guys through how I do that. I don't use the cryo coolers. I don't recommend you use the cryo coolers. So if you want to do air conditioning on your ships, and that's a big emphasis only on ships, I'll kind of try to talk about that. And it's something that I try to add to a lot of my more recent creations just because it's something that I figured out how to do, and I like doing the plumbing, and I generally just do a lot of unnecessary things on my creations. So that is that. And we're just going to get a bunch of windows in here. You guys can see that we got the tall radio mast in there. We're going to get a little tilt to that antenna dish so it's not just pointed straight up. It'll look a lot better. And I'm going to run some fake power cables all the way up to this antenna, coming right off the generator and the battery pack. That's what these orange pipes are. They're not actually going to do anything, but they're kind of like fake cables. The communications tower obviously is going to consume, in real life, it would consume quite a lot of power. So that's kind of the mindset with that. And right here, I'm going to just add a little hatch to the floor so you can access the lower section. And like I said, that'll be all microcontroller storage. So we'll probably try to decorate it up to look more like a server room. But that is kind of the idea with this. We're not going to really put anything in this building in this episode, so we'll come back to it at a later time. But I do think that this back here kind of does shape out the rest of the oil rig quite nicely. And you guys can see we've got to kind of add some support structures down here in the bottom to make it look a little bit better. But we do have some room in the backside to add our AC unit, and the floor on the bottom is a little bit shorter than I'd like it to be, but I don't think that that's too much of a problem. I don't want it to hang too much below the deck, and I also don't want to move this entire building up 3 or 4 blocks. So we're gonna make it tall enough, which we just got 7 blocks. I admit that this building is quite small, so I would like a little bit of more space. But and then right here, I'm just kind of adding a door, and it's completely unnecessary, but I think it looks nice. And this is, you know, just kind of like a nice little balcony. You can open it up, breathe it out, or let it air out a little bit, and that's kind of the idea with what we're doing here. All right, so we've moved on to doing more piping. Of course, can't do an oil rig episode without adding more piping. And so what this is going to be is we are pulling off a water line, or we're teeing off of our water line, and that is a seawater line. So this is mostly just for fire suppression and whatnot. But if you didn't know, the seawater in almost all areas of the map other than the Arctic is colder than the ambient air. So we're going to use this to our advantage to make an air conditioning unit. So what we're doing is we're going to take this seawater and we're going to put it into an air liquid heat exchanger, and we're going to pump air through the other side of it. The seawater is going to cool it down, and this is going to be a much better way of cooling your buildings down than with cryo coolers. So I don't like the cryo coolers. I'll be open and honest about it. I don't think they are as efficient as they should be, and I think that in order to make them efficient, you need a little bit too much space in order to kind of make like a refrigerated box truck or something like that, which I think was really the idea of their use case. But that's okay. If you're building a boat, just kind of keep in mind that the seawater is typically going to be colder than the air. So, again, I said it's not like that in the Arctic, but you don't need your AC in the Arctic. You need your heat. So that's not a problem. And we're going to add a couple of these, but this is going to be a separate unit than the main unit for the superstructure and the ops room and whatnot. I will confidently say that every single room in this oil rig will have air conditioning, so you guys can, after your long shift of counting beans and drilling oil, you can come in and cool down. So we're going to try to find a way to return this. Now, I do believe I just shoot it back down into the ocean. It might just get recirculated back into the same pipe, but that is not really too much of a concern. The big thing here is you want to keep your flow rates up. So as long as you can keep your flow rates up, you should be fine. I'm going to add check valves, which are our flow valves. And I do these a little bit more than I should, but I think they look nice. So don't mind me. I'm just going to add a bunch of those. And then the last step to making our air conditioning run is obviously just pumping air through the other side of our heat exchanger. So that is pretty simple. That's how I've done it. I've been doing that since before the cryo coolers were a thing, and I've had great luck with it. They seem to be pretty efficient, and it's pretty modular. So if it's not cooling an area down fast enough, you can kind of just add more. And that way, you can kind of have a climate control. And you guys will see the next big ship that I work on. We're going to do the entire thing climate control and sealed and all sorts of good stuff. But this is just something I like to do because I kind of go a little crazy with the HVAC systems. And this is something that I kind of want to show a lot of the Stormworks community just because, I know a lot of people are generally dissatisfied with the efficiency of the cryo coolers. But if you want to go about cooling your own ship, this would be the way that I go about it. So you can't do this with a car. Obviously, you can't do it with a plane just because you don't have access to seawater. But if you're on a boat, which the game is about boats, this is a pretty easy way to do it. All right. Well, we got everything plumbed up. And once again, guys, I apologize. I know kind of a lot of music and time lapses in this one, but I'm not feeling good, so I'm trying to give myself a little bit of a break. But that is all the building we got in this one. So if you stayed to the end, thank you so much. I know this one was a little bit longer. We're gonna keep working on our oil rig. We're gonna get the AWACS out, and I'm gonna try to get that challenge video edited for you guys as soon as I can. But that's all I got for this one. Thank you again, and I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.